Welcome back, everyone. I've been busy doing radio repairs. That's why I've been kind of not doing computer videos on this channel. I'm in the middle of a proof of concept project. This is a stereo that was sent to me by someone who found me on a forum, I believe. And this is actually the BOSE stereo that was an option on the 1990. Well, this came out of a 99 Miata. So that would be the NB generation. And this one was fitted with the BOSE CD head unit and the optional cassette deck. Now, interestingly enough, the head unit was made by Panasonic and the cassette deck was made by Jimmy Dean. No, actually it was it was made by the brand name is on one of the covers. It's actually it's written on the board too. And of course you had to ask right now when I've got everything apart. TMS, I believe, is the brand name on this. It's a factory deck. This is not aftermarket. And what we're doing here is, like I said, a proof of concept. This gentleman, the stereo he purchased from eBay, I believe, and it is it was a working pull, nothing wrong with it. He wants Bluetooth. So this gentleman wants his 1999 Miata to have a factory stereo, which is a new thing. Actually all of my customers have been NA Miata owners, but this is a guy who wants his 99 to have the factory deck. So I'm going to be offering this service to other folks who have 99s as well. And what we're doing is I'll just tell you what I'm doing, and if you want to do this on your own, great. If not, great. There are instructions. I actually had to pull these off Internet Archive because this was taken down as the website has been shut down. But these are all the pinouts for every radio ever used or every factory radio on a first, second, and maybe even third generation Miata. And I've also got these specific instructions. So years ago, when people were starting to add iPods, for example, to their stereos, they wanted to listen to an iPod, and they didn't want to use a cassette adapter because cassette adapters suck. We'll just be honest. They came up with a way to add an auxiliary jack using existing plugs, existing interfaces. In this case, the head unit is connected via this cable right here to the auxiliary cassette deck. And it's also designed so that it can be daisy-chained to a six-disc CD changer. For those of you Miata buyers with the bucks, you could buy a disc changer with this thing. And you could have them all daisy-chained so that everything would just kind of work seamlessly. What we're doing is we're latching off of the auxiliary for the cassette deck. So in order to switch this head unit into auxiliary mode or line mode, you actually need to short one of these pins. It's actually this pink pin. This pink wire right here with the silver stripes. That corresponds to, I believe it is pin F on the pin header. Anyway, so this pink and silver wire is a sense wire. It's actually looking for a small amount of voltage. And what you want to do is, if you apply power to this, 12 volts of power through a 1K resistor, I forget what that cuts it down to. We'll figure it out in a minute. But you power it through a 1K resistor off of 12 volts, a switched 12 volt source. It will send this deck into line mode. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're adding a Bluetooth module as per the customer's request, but we're using an old method that's been around for decades even. for adding an auxiliary line input jack to this stereo using the cassette interface. Now you can do this with or without a functioning cassette deck, but we want to keep the functioning cassette deck functioning. And how we're going to do this is we need to find a way to trick the head unit into thinking there's a cassette in here so that it enables the audio from this cable, from the line audio. And the way we're going to do that is, again, through this tried and true method of applying a small amount of voltage to this pin right here, this pink with silver striped wire. That is your cassette in switch. And the way to do that, according to these instructions, is to add a 1K resistor in line with your 12-volt source. So, long story short, in order to enable Bluetooth on this deck, you need to flip a switch, which is going to be this one right here. This is what I'm going to send to the customer. He's going to have to mount this. I give him a little bit of cable. He can mount this wherever the hell he wants. And this is going to do two things. It's going to apply 12 volts to the Bluetooth module, which will then send 12 volts through a 1K resistor down this green wire here, which is soldered to the back of pin F on the back of this connector, which is going to supply a small voltage amount. I have to do the math as to how much voltage that is, but it's going to send some power to that pink and silver wire, which will fool it into going into line mode. Now, if you don't want to use the cassette deck, or if you do want to use the cassette deck, you're at a 90s themed cars and coffee, and the theme of the day is playing cassette decks on your factory stereo, whatever, just turn this off and the cassette deck will work normally. Pretty straightforward. We're pulling our power from, and I didn't want to do this, but I couldn't. There's not enough, for whatever reason, the 12-volt auxiliary or ignition accessory wire doesn't put out enough power to run anything. So I get the impression that this deck is getting most of its power from the battery. Now the battery wire is what provides constant power. Every car stereo has this. It has constant power, 12-volt power, when the battery is hooked up in the car, whether the ignition is on or off. And that is why these decks will work. You can eject a tape from this cassette deck. It seems like the 12-volt auxiliary port or pin is somehow current limited. And if I pull anything off of it, it shuts down to 5 volts. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but this isn't the first time I've seen this. In fact, the Panasonic, these guys right here on the bottom, that black stereo, they do the same thing. And I have to do a very similar mod to add Bluetooth to those. But in this case, we have to use a switch because we're going to keep the cassette deck functional, and this will also power on and off the Bluetooth module. So let's power this up for the first time and see how it works. Everything is hooked up here, and when this is all said and done, this is going to get shrink tubed. We're going to shrink tube the whole thing to protect it, and it's going to be mounted to the side of the case here so it doesn't flop around. But let me make sure nothing is going to short out on me. Let's give it a try. So another thing to note, this is a BOSE head unit. It's also from an NB. Now the NB has additional lighting controls that were not in the NA. So I don't have lighting power on this unit. So the lights don't work, but for the customer's sake, I did bench test all the lights and everything works fine. All I had to do is I took the faceplates off and I applied power to them. And so let me reassemble this deck a little bit more, get that cover back in, get the faceplate back on, and we'll be off and running. All right, so I got this back together. Let's power it up. Okay, so at this point, it's going to work in normal cassette mode. Let's flip the switch. We got power, and it is in line mode. Bingo. just linked to my phone. You can see that. I'm going to do a quick test, make sure the audio works. But let's just shut this off. All right, the radio shuts off. I want to try something else. So I'm going to put a cassette in here. Now, because this is a BOSE unit, I meant to emphasize, this is a BOSE radio, so it does not have an internal amplifier. It puts out very, very low audio. That is normal. If you're bench testing one of these, or if you install one in a car that is a non-BOSE car, it is not going to produce much sound. So that is not a malfunction. It is because there is an amplifier somewhere else in the car. It's also, funnily enough, the non-BOSE version of this radio is also used on the Protege, and is the stereo that I had installed in my 97 Mazda 626 that I nearly died in back in 2004. Fun fact. It's a very nice stereo, very simple. I like the way it looks. It just looks nice. It's a very simple, understated design. Sounds okay. And I can imagine that, you know, with all that amplification that you get with the BOSE model, it probably sounds pretty good. Better than it would otherwise. So I'm going to put a tape in. Let's make sure that all still works. Yep, it switches over to line. Tape plays. And we got sound. All right, so tape is playing. I'm going to switch it over to Bluetooth. Now, it's not going to change anything, but it will power up the Bluetooth module. Just like that. So switch it off. I'm going to eject the tape, and the stereo shuts off. So we haven't... Yep, it works exactly as it's supposed to. Now it has Bluetooth. Permanently integrated in a way that is completely undetectable. That's the whole name of the game. That's what I do. So you can keep your factory stereo and you can link it to your phone or whatever device you've got. No problem. So I'm going to go ahead and start buttoning up this module here. Now this is the first one I've done. So this is the first one that I've done. As a result of that, there's a few things that I'm going to probably do differently in the future. Like for example, I thought I needed a dual pole switch. But I don't. Dual pole meaning, or a dual throw switch, so that it opens and closes two separate circuits. It turns out I don't need to do that. But it is an option. Now, the thing is, even if I shut the radio off, this is still powered up, just like the cassette deck is. The accessories on this radio remain powered up no matter what. So, something to consider. There is no switched 12-volt power going through this cable that I could find that I could tap off of. And so let me button all this up. And actually, this radio is ready to ship. I didn't have to do any repairs to the cassette deck. I just cleaned it for the customer, and that's all. CD player worked fine. All the lights are fine. We're not changing any lights. We're just doing Bluetooth on this one. But if you've got one of these with a cassette deck that you want rebuilt, I haven't figured out a rate to do those yet. This cassette deck is a little bit more difficult to work on than anything else I've worked on. Fortunately, they use good quality rubber components, and the belt is totally fine. There's no need to change it. It's good and strong, doesn't slip. So we're not changing it. So, all right, let me button her up, and we'll see what the finished product looks like. Okay, so now we're... Oh, shit, where'd it go? It's gone. Oh, no. Oh, did I really do that? I put it back... I packed it into a box and shipped it to the customer before I finished the video. What a klutz. Anyway, it's all done. I actually reached out to the customer and sent him a few photos. He loved it. He's getting excited. And that's it. It's done. So, just like that. And I just used some old instructions I found for the modification, and I gotta put these in a safe place so I don't lose them. But yeah, that's it. It's done, and I can move on with my life. And we actually have another radio in the line, so let's take a look at that one. This next radio, this one's mine. I own this. I bought it from a customer who sent it to me for parts. And we didn't need any parts. So I said, I tell you what, I'll give you a killer deal on your radio repair. And there you go. Yeah, word of mouth. That's how I work. That's how I roll. Word of mouth. This way, happy customers tell their friends. And, my motto is, if you're happy with my work, tell your friends. If you're not happy, tell me. That way we can resolve it. That's how the world goes around. And so far, I've had like 60 customers and not one of them has complained. So that's a good thing. For a new startup like this, a new business, a new venture, this is welcome news. And let's try to get this bench cleaned up because what a mess. I got stuff everywhere. In between radios, I gotta clean up. Gotta clean my room. Don't know why I have this over here. I'll put this away. So this next radio came to me from a customer. This is an NA 1990. Let's see what year it is. So Mazda used the same radio for several years. The Panasonic. Now it came under a couple of different model numbers, and this guy, we're looking at a 1267, a Panasonic 1267. What year? Made in Japan. Doesn't show me the year. Usually they do. This could be an early one, but this thing's in rough shape. Not gonna lie. I bet you this came from the coast. Either that. Now I'm gonna say this came from the coast, east or west. I'll have to look at which customer sent it to me. I'm not entirely sure at the moment. This has got a lot of corrosion. This one scares me. This one really scares me. Here, prop you up on the magnifier light, and we're gonna give it hell. See what it does. If I recall, this guy wants Bluetooth and lighting repairs. I'll have to confirm that. I'll have to check the email he sent me. But the word's getting out that I do repair radios, specifically Miata radios. Now there was a guy, his name was Jeff Anderson, who provided a lot of services to the Miata community, and he sadly passed away. And and it just so happened that I heard of him, but I was not aware that he was ill. But it just so happened that right around the time he started getting ill, I started doing repairs on the sensory sound systems for my own purposes because I wanted to fix mine. And it just kind of spiraled out of control as I learned very quickly that there's a lot of folks who really do want to save these old radios. For various reasons. I mean, most of them being that the early Miatas are shooting up in value. And originality is a thing that people like. Having an original car with its original stereo. Because you got to understand that 90s nostalgia is really big right now. And what is better than a 90s sports car, or roadster, to be proper? It's a roadster. It's not really a sports car. But a 90s roadster with a factory interior, and that includes the stereo. But 90% of my customers are actually owners of the 93 limited edition, which is what these came out of. And those are shooting up in value. So because that stereo was an integral part of that package, the 93 LE package, People are really dying to save their radios. I see less of these Panasonics these days, but they do pop in from time to time, and I don't shoo them away. I don't like them. I've actually developed something of a hatred for these radios for a couple of reasons. They have a lot of problems. They really do, and I mean a lot. Jeff Anderson had made a few modifications to these to change. For example, apparently there's a well, I already knew this, but the headrest speakers have a they have a filter, an inline filter on the board that cuts out the high frequencies. I noticed that on mine, and there's a way to bypass those filters or remove them altogether, and Jeff Anderson knew how to do it. And he did a few other things. He would repin the wiring harnesses and things like that. I don't do those services. I don't offer those, just by choice. I mean, if somebody really wants me to do it, I'll do it, but I need someone to tell me what he did, because I don't know. And he was an engineer by trade. I read his obituary. The guy was a very talented man. And my focus, though, is on the cosmetic restoration of the MSSS series and adding Bluetooth to these radios. Really didn't really get into the circuitry repair part of it. Didn't really want to, but kind of have to. I also repair the lighting, so when the lights go out, I make them light up again. I replace them all. That's what I do. Alright, let's fire this thing up and see what the hell it does or doesn't do. So let's see here. Surprisingly, I do get lighting on everything except for the screen. I get a clock. Okay, that's good. I think he said the cassette deck worked, so let's put in a cassette. Got a well-worn copy of In Excess Kick. It's a good album, actually. I'm starting to get sick of it, though. Okay, it wants to. It wants to. But it doesn't want to. It wants to, but it doesn't want to. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. I'm sorry. All right, does the CD player work? There's a 99.999% chance it's just going to spit the disc out. So let's just get it over with. One service that I started offering early on was CD repair. I changed my mind on that. I'll do it on the Pioneers, but not these. These never work. Yep. Not disappointed. It didn't work. Okay. Does anything work? Let's try the tuner. FM, please. Also, if you've got one of these that's locked out and you don't know the code, I can reset that too. Actually, I would just give you the instructions. You can do it yourself. I can't even get the tuner to work. Oh yeah, you gotta turn it on. We've got a scratchy volume knob. Let's see. FM. Yeah, these you gotta turn them on. Like, what is that? Most stereos, you just press AM, FM, and it just turns itself on. But not these Panasonics. Mia, turn my... Okay, yeah. Tell me you're a Panasonic without telling me you're a Panasonic. Oh, these Panasonics never disappoint. Can we fix her? Well... I don't know. This thing doesn't look good. But never judge a cover by its book, they say. Bad news bears. Let's take it apart. Let's see how bad this thing is. All right, I either it was East Coast, West Coast, Hawaii. I don't know, but I'm gonna look up this customer and figure out what. Oh my God. Really? This thing's beat. Normally, I expect to see a little bit of corrosion And that's because these are installed in convertibles. And convertibles get left open from time to time. But this one, oh my. But you know what? As bad as it looks, I should have all the parts to fix it. I think I do. I'm going to have to come up with a price for this guy if I cannot see. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. So the CD players on the Panasonics, why are they different? Well, the thing is, most of them fail from bad capacitors, but I have found that not always to be the case. We can certainly try a capacitor job and then we'll charge him for it if that's what he wants. But I'm going to confirm that with him. And this guy goes by the name the Pretzel Man, so I don't assume that to be his real name. Well, all right, looking inside, it doesn't look too bad. But yeah, I mean, look at this. This is rough. This thing's had a hard life. Salt life, baby. Yeah, I think he is actually from the coast. Alright, let's unplug this harness. Looking inside for corrosion. I do see corrosion on these pins, so that's not great. Surprisingly though, I had one come here that was, there was corrosion inside the tuner. And if we pop that cover off, let's take a look here. It had a lot of corrosion in the tuner area. In fact, it was so bad, I nearly recommended we replace the whole board, but it did work. I mean, it was a working unit. So, the connectors. On the Panasonics, yeah, this looks pretty clean. That's actually not what I expected at all. This looks really good. The Panasonics are known for a couple of problems. One of them being broken solder joints on the amplifier board. And nearly, well, actually so far it has been 100% of the units I've received that say Panasonic on them. All of them have this problem. And it's the main cause for units that don't have consistent audio from left and right channels, in my experience. Now, your mileage may vary, as with anything, but that's what I'm seeing. Everyone that comes here, all of them have the same. They all have the same problems. Cassette decks don't work, and it's because the nylon gears in the load mechanism have shrunk, and they no longer they're no longer the same size. They have actually literally shrunk. And the fix for that is I pull the gears out, I drill them out, put it back in. Okay, good luck with those. But the other thing is broken solder joints. I just saw one actually. Just glanced over and I saw more than one. Let me grab a pointing device and I'll point them out for you. So looking at the connectors, okay, I see it's a maybe. What's the other connector? One on the top. Actually, that could be one right there. I might need my magnifier for this one. Let's see, there's no corrosion on those contacts, but there's corrosion. We're going to have to clean that up. Alright, I did notice one though. It was, I just glanced at the board and I could see it. Where the freaking hell is it? I mean, really I should be reflowing these. Yeah, oh yeah, look at this. Boom, boom, right there. Now this is a power transistor, I believe, and having broken ones on that is not a good thing. It actually jumped right out at me. I went to go pull this out and I looked, I just glanced at the board. Oh, there's one right there. Broken. So what we do is we that's a maybe. We have to reflow every one that's suspect. what I'm probably going to do is take my new hot air station that I just bought and just kind of run it over the whole amp board. And that's going to fix them all. I should probably invest in a reflow oven just for these. That one's a maybe. But yeah, if I wiggle the speaker plug connector and I've got speakers that cut out on me, that's what it is. It's always what it is. That one's a maybe. The reason this happens on the Panasonics is because I found that the holes are so big, especially in components like plugs, all right? The holes were drilled too large for the pins that are going through them. And in doing that, oh, this guy right here, not supposed to look like that. Yeah, that's my theory. I initially thought, oh, here we go. There's one right there. This is on the connector the interfacing connector between the two, between the amp board, and yeah, there's one there, there's one there. All of these are broken. So the stresses of daily life solder is not very strong. Solder is not the strongest. And when it comes to fatigue failures, it just fails, right? It fails. It doesn't like fatigue. By drilling the holes too large for these components, it puts a lot of strain on the solder. 600. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of solder and I'm going to just reinforce all these joints, every single one of them. And that's how we're going to fix it. And that's going to solve some of the problems. But we still have many more to go. The least of which being the cassette deck. But we're just going to add a little bit of solder. I use leaded solder because that's what they used. Also has a lower melting point. Easier to work with. Depending on the light, you can see them. You can see the broken joints very easily. So what breaks them is mechanical stresses, heat stresses, heat cycling. You know, it's a rough life being a car stereo. Trust me, I used to be one. Let's heat it. This one looks a little suspect, so we're gonna just kind of remelt that one. But I've grown accustomed to finding these broken joints because they're so common on these. It's really sad. So I had a theory at one point that this was because they had used an earlier form of lead-free solder. And I have recanted that. I no longer believe that because lead-free solder didn't really become a thing until much later. These are made in the early 90s. Lead-free solder, I mean, we were still transitioning to it, I think, into the 2000s because it was so controversial. Yeah, this one's definitely got some breaks. And the frustrating thing is these broken joints aren't always obvious. They're sometimes hard to see. And you're going to miss some until you figure it out, until you test the shit out of it, and then eventually you got them all. My experiment with using the hot air station, I didn't like what it was doing to this connector in the back. It's starting, when it starts to turn glossy, that means it's too hot. We're getting too much heat on that connector. We don't want to do that. But this is just part of it. I mean, there's still more to go. I mean, and they're going to be on the other boards, all the main boards inside the unit. So we're just touching the surface here, literally. So that should have fixed our audio connection. Let's confirm that real quick. Put this back on. I'm going to spray a little bit of deoxit on these connectors. I'm going to use the D100. It just sprays in short bursts. There we go. Doesn't make a mess. That's what I like about this stuff. I think I'm almost out. Gotta buy more. Just add it to the list, add it to the grocery list. There we go. Spits out. There we go. We're coming. We're doing it. What this stuff does is it reduces or removes the oxidization that is undoubtedly formed in these connectors. We're also going to look on the board here, and I'm going to take this whole unit apart at some point in this project, and we're going to go through every single connection. And that's why I charge what I charge, because this is a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. It's tedious, but it has to be done if we're going to save this radio and make it pretty again. For this customer, I'm going to probably replace a lot of his coverings. A lot of the covers are corroded pretty badly, and I've got extras. So as a courtesy, we're going to just replace those because we have them. And yes, I think I do. I'll have to double check. But if we can make this thing look good again, sound good again, well, that's what we're going to do. Like I said, I want my customers happy. If you send me a radio for repair, I'm going to do everything I can to make it right again. That's what I do. I may not be the best, but for right now, I'm the only guy doing this, so good luck. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, all that corrosion, I don't think I like that. Let's take a look underneath. Let's see what's going on under there while we're digging. Let's pull all the covers off. Unlock all of her dirty little secrets. Okay. A little dusty, but not bad. Not what I expected anyway. Again, I was expecting this thing to look like shit, but it doesn't. It doesn't look bad at all. Internally, it's all on the outside. As I was saying, we need to look at that connector because... oh, did I look for... Yeah, I did check for broken connections back there too. I see that these connectors often also have the same problem. So this is the D5. This stuff has got a little more oomph to it, but it all does the same thing. It's just a little messier. Okay, let's do this. Let's work that connector in and out a few times too. CD player's not working. Usually capacitors, not always, but sometimes. I've had one come in and it was actually a dirty lens. So we're going to go ahead and try to clean the lens. It's not going to cost anything extra. What the hell? Just a little alcohol. I'll squeeze a little alcohol on there. And we're going to just go ahead and give that lens a good cleaning. The dirty lenses are more of an issue in smokers' cars for obvious reasons. Nicotine gets in these, it builds up and creates a film over the lens. And it's like a cataract, but it can be cleaned off very easily. So let's plug this ground strap in. Okay, here we go. Power it up. And let's turn on the tuner. Can't read that. I think it's going through both channels.
Vaccine as quickly as we did?
Yeah, I think that's true.
Listen to the Big Take on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
We're good. We fixed that problem.
Download the free iHeartRadio app.
The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crank the volume up on these because I found some that won't crank up. You turn them up all the way and you can tell that there's not the correct amount of sound coming out of there. But this one seems to be okay. Well, I was right about one thing. This did actually come from California, so that answers that question. But in the emails he sent me, he claims the CD player actually worked So what can we do for him? I don't know. We'll pull the CD player out and see. So let's do that. No, yeah, these are a little bit of a bitch to work on, I'll be honest. Yeah, these are a pain. Yeah, you gotta pull the whole thing out. You gotta disassemble. I'll show you what goes into this, because it's a lot. I mean, you don't just, yeah, you got to take the whole case apart. So let's do that. But I'm a little miffed that he claims the CD player works. Not mad at him, but I mean, it's just, well, now it's here. And I did actually ask him, like, are you aware of the corrosion that this thing has on it? Because I'm wondering if he sent me the wrong one. Because this is the one, or this is the, let's see if there's a date on this one. November 1994. So this is actually newer than my car. Okay. November 94. That's when she was made. But look at this. This is nasty. Really nasty. God. Like I said, I mean, I almost think it's the wrong radio. I mean, if it didn't come in a box with his address on it, I'd be like, well, maybe this is the wrong one. But it's not. This doesn't seem to be the case. Doesn't seem to be the case at all. But yeah, this thing's rough. Really rough. So in a case like this, let's say you send me a radio and the CD player doesn't work, which is pretty typical for these. I am not going to offer to repair the CD player, but what I'll do is I can replace the CD player with a Bluetooth module. That's what I do. And what I typically do in that case is we don't do it. It's not a hack job. It's not a mess. It's not like, oh my God, what did I do? We pull the CD player mechanism out to make room for the module. The module sits right in the middle. And we wire the module right into this harness here. In fact, I have all the pins mapped out, so I know what to latch onto. But we don't stop there. We don't want you accidentally inserting a CD into the faceplate. So I make a block-off plate. That is, you can't see it. It looks normal, like it's just a slot here, right? But the block-off plate is blackened out, and it looks like a normal CD player, but there's no CD slot. I don't like doing that, but what I found is it seems to be the best solution, because you can still enjoy your music. It still looks like a factory stereo. It still is a factory stereo, and all the factory options work, except the CD player, which, you know, if I'm honest, I'm kind of a purist myself, and I wouldn't want that. But given the circumstances, that's what I can offer. And because I have recapped these boards, and I had 2 of them actually come back to life. Only 2. The rest of them, no bueno. But there's one thing I can do. And this works on the Panasonics every time. Pioneers, on the Pioneers, not the Panasonics. Look at this crap. Look at this. This is bad. What happened to this radio? My God. I'm like, what the hell? This is not good. Let's look inside. I mean, it looks like, you know, some corrosion did make it internally, but for the most part, this thing is hammered. Wow. So this all has to come out. These aren't. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. There's a little plastic grommet that has to be pulled out. Dear God. outside. So that's impressive. Okay. This is what I do on the Pioneers, and you can do this yourself. It's a very similar setup, but you want to look underneath. Oh yeah, you gotta undo these. Where's my pliers? So you gotta undo these hook clip things here. Undo that. And this will separate very carefully. There we go. So you want to take a look underneath. And right on the side of the laser block is a little potentiometer. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tweak that potentiometer just a tad, just a little bit, just to make it feel loved. We're going to do that, and we're going to see what happens. Like I said, it works on the Pioneers. Will it work on this Panasonic? Maybe. So just a bit. You don't want to go too much. We're not going to kill it. You know, we're just gonna give it a little bit of a power boost. That's what we're actually doing. We're increasing the power going to the laser. And what it does is it compensates for aging lasers. All right. I'm not gonna put this back in the case. I'm gonna just put the faceplate back on. Snap it on. Okay. And we're gonna plug this in. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. What's got me going is the customer says it worked when he shipped it. So I'm inclined to believe the customer, but I have yet to see when that does work, so out of the gate. So let's give this a try. Everything's hooked up. We didn't disconnect anything. So we're going to just turn the radio on. Oh, we're going to turn the power on first. There we go. Okay. Turn the radio on. Put a CD in. All we did was we just nudged the power potentiometer. That's it. Sometimes we're lucky, sometimes we're not. And this time we're not lucky. It doesn't like us. Okay, well that's different. Never had one scream at me. So. Okay, are you done? That's a new one. I haven't had one scream at me yet. So let's put it back to where it was. I know how much I turned it, so let's just dial it right back to where it was. I don't want to have a screaming fest, a screaming match with the CD player, so I didn't turn it very far, so where was it? Where was she? It was over here. Let's just I see what it did. It that's different. It looks like it tried to move itself into an implausible position. How can I put that any clearer? There we go. So let's just disconnect all this. And you got yourself a little zip tie there. Cut the zip tie. There we go. like I said, I don't like these. I don't like them at all. Not the Panasonics. But people insist on sending them to me. Even Jeff Anderson actually stopped working on the CD players. He gave up on them a long time ago. For the reasons that I'm giving up on them, actually. If you see what it did is it forced itself way out of left field here. So that's what you're hearing. That's what that noise is. It rammed itself all the way out. And it's a worm drive system, so that's a new one. But the capacitors that I refer to are these little SMD caps. Now, I'm looking at them now, and I don't see any leakage, which is usually a precursor to failure. Nor am I seeing any leakage on the electrolytics over here. Everything looks pretty kosher. So it could just be a laser failure, which wouldn't be uncommon. And I think that's what Jeff Anderson had been experiencing with these as well. But it's rammed itself. There we go. We'll just... Jesus Christ. Let's turn that back down a little bit and see what we get. I didn't turn it very far. Just a little tweak. But yeah, this motor is sending it into space. It just rammed it against the wall and is trying to push it further. So that's special. That's special. We'll put it in its home position. I don't like these. I really don't. Alright, let's plug it back in and see what we get. But no corrosion on the board. No signs of any cap leakage. Nothing like that. So the old dirty tricks aren't going to work for us this time. Partner. But he said it worked. But you saw here live that it didn't work. Well, at least not really live, but you get the idea. So we'll just add this one to the bin of failures. We'll reach out to the customer, see what he wants to do. Now, if you insist on me repairing your CD player, here's what I can offer. If this is really what you want, I will recap the board, but I will charge for the recap job whether it works or not. That's the deal. That's how that works. So, yeah, you know, it's the life that we live. But I have to charge for my time and the materials because it's not free. Whether it works or not, I got to pay for the caps. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it don't. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you don't. Kind of like that. Alright. Let's go back to square one. Let's plug this back in. And see what happens. Is it going to work? Probably not. Okay. I don't need the faceplate. It'll just... So let me tell you how this works. When you put a disc in, before it spins the disc, it's looking for feedback from the laser. So what it's going to do is it's going to shine the laser, and when it sees feedback, when it sees that there's a disc present, it will start to spin the disc. If it doesn't sense any feedback from the laser, it does nothing. So that's what's going on. So the laser's probably dead. Wouldn't be the first time. Anyway, guys, that's it for now. Thank you for watching. And like I said, you see what I offer. We do Bluetooth. We do restorations on sensory sound systems like that one. Let me show you some faceplates that I actually have ready to roll. This is what they look like when they're done. This is what they look like when they come in. It's not perfect. It's not factory, but it's pretty close to it. That's what we do here. And as always, have a good day.